afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's regular meeting of the Council of the Township of North Dundas, today being Thursday, August 15th. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, second by Councillor Lennox, that the meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas be hereby called to order at 1 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that the agenda be adopted as amended to move addendum item 55B to item 5.1. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of North Dundas held July 18, 2024 be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. And as we mentioned, we're going to move and we're going to ask our planner, Mr. Calvin Pohl, to come ahead and speak to the addendum. And we have two representatives of the project at Dundas Manor here with us today, and they'll come forward and sit with Mr. Pohl.
The motion? Do you want to read the motion?
One second, please.
Change up the order.
Yeah. One, two, three.
Just read the recommendation here. I'll give you one. Just ask for a mover and a seconder.
The council authorized a temporary exemption permit to public nuisance bylaw 2016-20 for construction of the new Dundas Manor located at 543 Clarence Street, Winchester, for a maximum of 12 nights between August 15, 2024 to November 30th, 2024. Weather conditions might affect when the work can be completed. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Bergeron, Councillor Lennox. Mr. Pohl.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So we have a request from the construction crew at the Dundas Manor. They're currently progressing quite readily and looking to pour some slabs. There's a series of 8 slabs that have to be poured as they go up different levels and each side of the building as they go forward. They need to do this during the day. Their request to council is if they need to go over, their hope is never to need to go over 11 o'clock. But when you're working with concrete and you want to do the final finishes to concrete, you may still need the polishing on top of the concrete done, and it may extend over. They want to ask for an exemption now before it happens, in case it happens, and notify the neighbors. So it's basically working, they can explain it probably a little further, with a machine to smooth the concrete out. It may involve an hour, it may involve more than that into the evening hours. So neighbors may be affected. There's a small motor on top of it with lighting. So they're going to do as much for mitigating measures as they can, to do as many of those as they can to buffer any noise and light coming from the work that's being done on the different layers. So they've asked for the 12 nights. It may be dependent. We've included in the resolution that it's weather dependent. Obviously, if it's pouring rain, they're not going to be pouring concrete on that day. They may move to another day. So those nights may change depending on what the day is like. So all the concrete's being poured during the day. It's not being poured at night. There's no trucks going to be happening at 11 o'clock at night and the beeping and the backing up and all that operation. It's our understanding. So it's basically just the finishing work that might need to carry on into the evening just because of the size of the slab they're working on.
Yes.
I don't know if they have any further to add.
Yeah, I think you summarized it quite well. Thank you. It's like we'll have trucks up till 6 p.m. max.
Yeah, likely, the trucks, we're looking at a few hours for pouring the concrete. And it's the initial time for the setup of the concrete that takes time, depending on the weather. If it's cooler, it's gonna take longer to set up and slowing down our start on being able to finish the power troweling. So it may carry on a few hours later, but with the size of the slabs that we were doing, I don't see it really exceeding much further. So with the building design that was provided, we don't see it like maybe after midnight at the worst case, depending on the weather. So
Okay, questions, comments, members of council? We'll go to Councillor Lennox.
So I see this as your outfit being a very good neighbor and presenting a possible issue prior to it happening. The issue in my mind is not severe at all. Everyone in this township, or the mass majority, wants to see this manor built. Individuals in this room, as well as the township, have contributed funds to fund the building. I'm for it.
Thank you, Councillor. Other further comments, Councillor Annable?
Only that I live at the corner of Clarence and Louise. You guys have stuck to the hours for trucks to go by. I have no issue.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, we do need the manor built, and it seems to be going ahead quite quickly, which is nice. And so I understand that when you want a continuous slab, you have to, it's continuous. You have to do it all in one piece. And therefore, it's necessary. And for, I don't know, 12 days out of, I don't know how many years to have noise above 11 p.m., I think it will be tolerated.
Appreciate that.
I have no grave concerns, but I just want to, for maybe only my sake. So the trucks will, and that was one of the early thoughts that may happen, is that the trucks will be backing in and dumping or pouring concrete or unloading concrete after in the dark. So there'll be, the plan is, and I understand there's always challenges to a plan, but the plan is 6 p.m. is what normally goes on, or 6 p.m. later than what normally?
the concrete poured well before 6 p.m.
So when we say concrete poured, we mean the trucks that bring the concrete in, we pour it, and because it's a very thick substance that takes some time to set, the finishing is done after it's been poured. So the pouring will be done earlier in the day. I just said 6 p.m. as a worst case scenario in case some extra concrete is required later, but the finishing and the generator level noise that we're sort of bringing up now is what's going to continue later into the night. So definitely, we're not going to be pouring concrete, which requires trucks beeping, banging. None of that will be past 6 p.m.
Okay, and the other something further that I'm thinking about is like what type of noise abatement is possible whenever they're using the power trowel? Is it like, do you put up a plywood wall? Do you have something along that line, or even for the lighting, like to make sure it doesn't shine into someone's backyard or bedroom?
So for the lighting, we'll have we'll try our best to keep the light away from the neighbors, so it would be pointed towards our own land and angled towards the hospital as much as possible. For the sound, it's very difficult because it's imagine a generator at night when there's no other noise, and it's an open field with not many, like no tall buildings, so the sound just propagates. So for this kind of work, we've looked at options, but that's why we came with with this motion to ask for an exemption, basically. We looked at options, but yeah.
Yeah, so like if you put some sort of hoarding around it, because it's an empty structure shell, it's gonna, the noise will actually get louder than allowing it to just be freely go throughout the building.
Okay.
So the building, the walls aren't up, it's just an open building, and the noise transmission will be reduced. If we do put up hoarding, it's gonna actually make it a bit louder, so.
Yeah, no, and I agree with my fellow councillors and the deputy mayor that yeah, this is a project that's been it's been almost, well, I think it's fair to say a decade in the works to get to this point, and I really do appreciate the patience that everyone's displayed so far as this project's been going on, the residents in that area, and but we all do. I trust we all understand the long-term goal is to see completion of this as close to the timeline as the expected timeline as possible, and yeah. I'm supportive of it as well. So, all those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Oh, yes, Mr. Paul.
Can we just speak to the communications plan, just to make sure
Yes,
that we're
please do that.
communicating with the neighbors?
So part of our plan is to, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out. We can increase the frequency of that, which is used to communicate the progress of the project and any upcoming minor sort of disruptions or impacts that the neighborhood might encounter. We can definitely use that as a medium to put this out if the council accepts our exemption request. We are planning to have that in our newsletter and out to the neighborhood so that they are aware of the upcoming possible disruption.
And that'll be door to door throughout a newsletter handed out door to door to the residents?
No,
Email.
it's sent by email to.
Oh, so you have that contact information
Yes.
for all the local residents?
Yes.
Wow, technology. Yeah. Nice. No, we appreciate that, and that just makes it, as we've all experienced, and everyone I'm sure has, communication is a vital part of it, and it's good to hear that that plan is in place.
And also,
Mr.
we'll
Paul.
make sure it's on our website, posted so people are aware through that also, and Facebook.
And will we be part of that drafting to make sure it fits what fits our style, so that we're comfortable with what's going on? Proofing it, I guess,
Yep.
is the word. Thank you. If there's nothing further, before you leave, Mr. Paul, but gentlemen, thank you very much. You don't have to, I just have a question for Mr. Paul about an upcoming event.
Okay, well, thank you all.
So it's been approved.
Thank you.
Can you get your names to us for after for recording?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Paul, before you left the microphone, I wanted to ask you a leading question. Next week, starting on Sunday, there's a conference in Ottawa, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. It is one of the more, I would say, the most important conference for municipal politicians and staff, a spot for us to connect with MPs and other ministers and other like-minded municipal politicians. It's a feather in someone's cap when they have a chance to present, and I believe you have a feather that's going to be in your cap. And if you could just give us an overview of what you'll be doing as a presenter at AMO at one of the conference sessions.
Yeah, so we've been asked, North Dundas has been asked to present with regard to conservation authorities, and the Conservation Ontario Federation of Conservation Authorities is also going to be presenting with me. They've asked us to use some of our cases that we've had here, one being Savita, and how we worked through the Savita case to build up the road so that they could build on that site. Otherwise, they would not be able to build on that site. And how we partnershiped with South Nation on that to get the survey done, to figure out how much fill we had to bring in, raise the road, so they have safe access now. And they did build their $8 million expansion, which is a really good news story of how we work together with the Conservation Authority. The other one we're looking at is the Wellings project under source water protection, because that whole project is within a source water protection area, and treating with that with the stormwater ponds, the underground sewer lines all had to be pressure tested so it does not contaminate our municipal well, because we draw water from that area. So these are two cases that I'll be presenting with the Conservation Authority, South Nation, and with the Conservation Ontario, which is Angela Coleman. She used to work for South Nation. And Allison McDonald, who was with South Nation, but now with the Raisin River Conservation Authority, so she'll also be presenting. So we got an hour and a half to fill.
I'm sure you'll be able to fill it with all the challenges and successes we've had in North Dundas with with many of the things you've been involved in, and I reserve bragging rights to say that I know Calvin Pohl and the other two ladies, and how that partnership has worked so well and has allowed us to think outside of the box, look outside of the box, and take on challenges that I feel others may not have been able to take on outside of North Dundas. And I'm always quite enthused and proud of us looking outside of the box and trying to find solutions to problems, and in order to advance the interests of North Dundas. And so, yeah, it's going to be an interesting presentation. I always look forward to seeing you in action elsewhere besides just here. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Then we'll move to Mr. CAO, Mr. DeHaan.
Thank you. Just very quickly on, sorry, I guess the recommendation, I apologize. Jumping ahead.
Moved by Councillor Lennox, second by Councillor Annable, that Council authorize the CAO and Mayor to prepare a letter of support to Infrastructure Ontario based on the July 18, 2024 delegation presentation from Storm Internet, subject to input from subject matter experts, e.g. Eastern Ontario Regional Network. Mr. DeHaan.
Thank you. So at our last meeting, Mr. Foster from Storm Internet came and provided council with an overview of services they provide, and then essentially looking for council's support to essentially request that Infrastructure Ontario allow smaller ISPs such as Storm Internet access to the funded network that's being installed through the Accelerated High-Speed Internet program currently underway here in North Dundas, but also I guess this impacts many other small ISPs throughout Ontario. I am not going to pretend that I am an expert at ISPs and how fiber internet works and how we connect to the internet. So Mr. Foster, shortly after his presentation to us, provided essentially a draft copy of what he's hoping that council would support. What I'm looking for council is just to make sure that council is comfortable with that, and then for myself to consult with, for example, the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, just to make sure that it makes sense what we're asking for in the context of the entire project that's happening throughout Ontario. I'd hate to put North Dundas in a position where we're asking for something that actually doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of like the objectives of the provincial government. So, and to be honest with council, I've already reached out to EORN, and specifically they've provided some feedback. So we do have a draft letter underway and should be okay to go, again, subject to council's input. I have circulated back to Mr. Foster some of those edits we've made, and he seemed very pleased with it because essentially the intent, as is no surprise, the intent is exactly along the lines of what he's hoping to get support for. So with that, I'll leave it with council.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Lennox.
Although I missed Mr. Foster's presentation last time, I heard it was a quite good one. Did he spell out ISP?
Internet service provider.
There we go.
Did
You're
I get
on
it
the
right?
way.
I think I got it right.
You're on the way. No, I support this. This company has helped residents in North Dundas, and I support this initiative as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Credit to, I'm not used to Mr. Foster. Burkett, credit to Burkett. Burkett I know. And credit to Burkett for coming forward and wanting to be a delegation. I do appreciate that because it's allowed this to take place, and it's needed. And early days on my understanding of EORN and the challenges, and then to hear stories about, well, don't worry about the small ISPs. They're not going to get a piece of the pie. It's just going to go to a big one, and it did, essentially. And they can't get into the game, which is maybe understandably so, the direction of the province, but I don't think it's the correct direction. I think local ISPs should be part of this project at all times. They know the culture, they know the area, and they know the challenges, and there's buy-in. They're part of our communities, and so I look forward to this letter going forward, and I hope it gains traction. And I'm looking forward to EORN being supportive of that. Because my feeling early on, understanding what EORN was up to, their hands were quite tied because no one was advocating the other way. So I hope this supports Burkett's Storm Internet and Mr. Foster's desires, but I hope I'm looking forward to supporting many other smaller ISPs across the province.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Saying all that, all those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Move on to Finance, Mr. Garreau. Moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Lennox, that council receive the development charges treasurer statement for 2023 as outlined in Appendix A, and that the treasurer be authorized to transfer funds from the development charges reserve funds as outlined in Appendix B, and that these transfers are effective as at December 31, 2023, and that council authorize the treasurer to make Appendices A and C available to the public in accordance with Section 43(1) and 2.1 of the Development Charges Act 1997. Mr. Garreau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, this is basically, it's a year-end closing exercise. We do this every year, albeit it is getting here a little bit later this year than other years. The auditors are slated to arrive September 3rd for their year-end audit, so it's incumbent upon us to get all these working papers up to date, and this is one of the ones that have been lagging behind. You pretty much covered it all, Mr. Mayor, but just by way of background, this schedule is done in accordance with the Development Charges Act 1997, and also in accordance with our own Development Charges Bylaw number 2022-35, that says the treasurer is required to provide council with an annual financial statement on development charges. That schedule, which is really more of a statement rather than a full-blown statement, but it's attached as Appendix A, which you can look at. And it's important to note that these funds have already been spent in 2023. So when we say we're transferring funds, it's the accounting terminology. We're really moving the cost from one pocket to another pocket. So the good news is the money has already been spent. The bad news is, I guess, the money's already been spent. We're simply drawing down the development charges reserve funds and allocating those reserve funds to revenue accounts so that we will have revenue to offset the cost for the assets that these development charges supported. On page 13, they continue on saying that Appendix A is attached, which is the development charges statement, and in summary, a total of $544,663.31 was raised from development charges. There was interest on those funds in the amount of $79,730.64. So that's a total influx between interest and principal of over $624,000. The withdrawal for capital projects, as you can see, was $517 and change. So a net increase in the fund of $104,000. The fund opened up with $1.1 million, and the closing balance at December 31st, 23 after these transfers will be $1,266,778. Just by way of financial analysis, development charges, as council is well aware, they assist with growth-related capital costs, which reduces the financial burden on taxpayers. That's one of the good points, obviously. And if this financial statement is adopted by council, the listed growth-related capital costs will be funded from the Development Charges Reserve Fund. Obviously, if it's not passed by council, we'll be looking someplace else to fund it, and there is no place else, so it's got to come from there. This is done in alignment with our strategic plan, specifically Priority 2 on infrastructure updates. We had a lot of good help from Calvin's department. Thank you, Calvin, giving us some assistance with what is eligible for development charges, how much of it is eligible. On that note, I think we had budgeted almost $600,000 to come out of development charges when we passed our budget for 23. It was $592,985, so $15 shy of $593,000. And the reason it was less than that, 517, and the basic reason why it was less was Marionville Road came in under budget, and the 3-ton cab truck was budgeted at $150,000 and came in at $128. So pretty much between those two major projects was why we underspent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garreau. Questions, comments? Surprisingly, none. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garreau. Mr. Cheney. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Lennox, that bylaw number 2024-41 being a bylaw to abandon the southernmost portion of the Bolton Municipal Drain be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 15th day of August 2024. Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser, members of council. On March 20th of 2023, staff received from a landowner requesting the abandonment of the southernmost portion of the Bolton Municipal Drain from station 66+40 to station 53+40. As per the Provincial Drainage Act, under section 84, subsection 1, staff sent a notice to all owners of the land assessed for the drainage work stating the intention of the abandonment for the drain. As per section 81, any owner within the within the drainage watershed could send notice to the clerk within 10 days to request a report of an engineer. No owner sent notice to the clerk within the 10-day period. Therefore, as per section 84, subsection 5, council may, by bylaw, abandon the drainage works, and at a time thereafter, the municipality shall have no further obligation with respect to the drainage works. Staff recommend proceeding with the abandonment of the southernmost portion of the branch drain. And under our strategic plan, it's not applicable as this work is an operational procedure initiated by the landowner.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Recreation and Culture, Ms. Meerberg. Moved by Councilor Lennox, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council authorize the Joel Steele Community Center roof to be repaired at a cost of up to $62,000 plus HST, and that any shortfalls of funds necessary to complete the repair be taken from the general reserve with a commitment to replenish this reserve as part of the 2025 budget. Ms. Meerberg.
Good afternoon, Council. So as Council is aware, the roof on the Sandmalt Arena has been experiencing water infiltration issues. During rainy weather or milder climates, when the snow melts on the roof, water infiltration freezes on the ice surface, creating small bumps. The drips can also cause small holes in the ice pad, and if the water digs deep enough, it can go through the whitewash layer and down to the concrete, which leaves dark spots on our ice. The paint can migrate within the holes and with the water, so it comes up through the water, and the holes also have soft edges around them. So these issues can create small, dull finishes across the ice, which has a capability to impair skaters. Included in the 2024 budget was $49,500 for required repair work. Based on the cost estimates received, we're anticipating that the project will be approximately $12,500 over budget. The repair work is anticipated to last 3 to 5 years. Staff are seeking council's direction in order to proceed, so a small list of 3 options are provided in my report for council review and consideration.
Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Meerberg. Questions, comments? I thank you, Councilor Lennox. I'll let you go first because my question's been answered.
All right, so over 3 to 5 years, the entire roof, though, are we going to run into more issues with this roof? Are we going, or let me rephrase, should we expect this number to drastically increase with every year that goes by? Because it is an old building, and we may patch a hole here, but next season there may be 3 others on the opposite end, on the north end, for example.
That is possible, absolutely. The idea at this point is to get us like 3 to 5 years sounds satisfactory to our staff team, because the goal is to have the Recreation and Culture Strategic Plan presented to council in December or January and get some direction for the facility. So we're looking for a fix for right now to get us through a few years.
A bridge option. Okay.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
perfect. Yeah,
yes.
that's what I was saying, because
Yep.
I understood the 1.3
Yes.
during budget talks, maybe last year even. It was brought up that this project was tied to another project, and I don't know what's happening with that either, but both of our rinks do need substantial repairs, and I hope everyone takes note of the big number on the screen of what the township is doing to try and fix these while they come up with their master plans and other avenues for funding.
Well, thank you for your comments. Deputy Mayor.
I'm on the same line with Councillor Lennox. We are really anxious to see what that master plan will be because, you know, this is patchwork, and it's costly patchwork. And I hope that the minor hockey leagues appreciate how much money that we're putting in, you know, just for them to have their sport. But It's very expensive, and even though I don't like it, to me it's like bad money after bad money until we actually do something concrete. But at this point, personally, I don't see we have much choice because we have to have some ice for at least another couple of years until we decide what we will finally do.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Annabelle.
Well, like Teresa just said, bad money after bad money, but if somebody were to trip and break a leg or something on one of those bumps that come in the ice, I think we're pretty much obligated to address the issue. So I'm in favor.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to make sure that minor hockey doesn't suffer too much, this repair, I just want to make sure it's clearly understood, is not strictly for minor hockey. It's for all users of the slab of the Sam Alt Arena year-round. I know during pickleball, when there's a rainstorm outside, they're pickleballing around the puddles. And for the roller skating night, Friday nights, they put pylons are needed. It becomes a bit of a race course or an obstacle course to get around the pylons because of the rainstorms we've had this summer. So it's as many of us know, many of us homeowners or anyone that you need a roof on a building. If you don't have a good roof, you don't have a good building, and without a good roof, you soon will not have a building at all. So it's a necessary evil that we do the best we can with the funds and being mindful of the tax dollars. I too look forward to I call it the master plan, the rec master plan. I know that's not the proper name, but it's the one that sticks with me. But I have reservations about seeing the expense of some of the things that might be proposed as solutions to the issues in North Dundas with the facilities. But again, those are just recommendations, options in front of us in that direction. We need to be comfortable with the tax dollars that will be spent for the future on these facilities. So saying all of that, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Oh, Ms. Mayor, before you go,
Yes.
I hope it's not putting you into a bind, but is there any update on the equipment that's on the roof at the arena?
Yes, sir. The condenser, absolutely. So the condenser has been installed, and the plant is scheduled to be turned on tomorrow. It's going to cool over the weekend, and the painting of the slab is being done next Friday. So we are good to go. The weather is looking great. So things seem to be on our side. The dehumidifiers are planned to come in Tuesday, and so we're hopeful that those will contribute to a better internal environment for the ice making.
That's exciting news.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
And we'll move back to Development Services and Mr. Mann, or both Mr. Mann and Mr. Pohl. Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Lennox, that Council approve a facade improvement grant of $5,000 under the Township of North Dundas's Community Improvement Plan for 5 King Street, Chesterville, and that Council authorize the Mayor and interim CAO to execute the required agreement. I'm not sure which. Mr. Mann.
Yes. Good afternoon, Council. So before you today is a grant request for a facade grant for the owners of 1 to 5 King Street in Chesterville. This is the building that houses Louis Restaurant, amongst many other businesses. I'm excited to announce come September, maybe October, there'll be a new commercial tenant that's going into the 5 King Street unit. So this is, you'll remember from, must have been 30 years ago, there was a variety store, Max potentially, that was in there. Becker's, yes, thank you. And then since they left, it's been vacant ever since. So the owner of the building has been trying to rent it for many years, and finally had landed on a great tenant that'll be coming in the next month or two. So in preparation for that, they want to replace the old single pane glass along the entire front facade of the building. as well as replace the front door, as it can barely be opened now. It's been closed for 30 years. So it'd be nice, new double pane glass, nice little improvement to that big building. It is quite a predominant building in downtown Chesterville. And yeah, the request is for $5,000 for a facade grant, and the total work proposed is $21,065.
Well, that is good news. Mr. Pohl, anything to add?
No, it's just great to see some of our commercial businesses improving their facades and making life better, and for residents to visit these buildings too and make them accessible.
Yes, yes, yes. And to go back to my good roof analogy, you need to have people in and out of a building to make sure the building remains too. You need people to be involved and present. Otherwise, it just falls into further disrepair. And I'm looking forward to 5 King Street being a busy spot again.
Yes,
Yeah,
it will be.
that's good. Anything else from members of council? All those in favor? Opposed, see none, that's carried. I'm going to move into key information and Chief Raystrick.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This report for Fire Marquee Services, it's for council just to provide some information on the opportunity for the fire department to recover some costs associated with the fire protection we offer. This company, Fire Marquee, specializes in dealing with insurance companies. So Fire Marquee recovers funds from insurance companies on property fires. So the policies that we all hold now currently provide coverage for firefighting costs, so there is no additional cost to the homeowner or the property owner if we choose to go down this route. If council supports entering the agreement, the cost would be recovered from the insurance company, and the property owner would not be billed then for the expenses of the property. Currently, if we bring in an excavator at times, we will bill the property owner for that third party. Our ENR bylaw provides for that. This could mitigate some of those costs to the property owner. It would go to the insurance company, plus Fire Marquee would go for additional firefighting costs. One of the, not caveats, but one of the requirements of the agreement is that the money recouped goes to education, capital expenses, or training for the fire services. So it would help offset the operating costs of our, or even capital costs of the fire services going forward. Use easy math. If Fire Marquee goes for $10,000, if you have $10,000 worth of coverage for the fire services, and Fire Marquee gets the whole $10,000, we would get $7,000. Fire Marquee would keep 30%. They keep 30% of the funds. Okay. I did provide a link in the, if you wanted to look them up, but we can also have them come and present to council as well, if you would desire.
Okay. Questions, comments? I'll look to Councillor Lennox.
I like this. I like creative ways to create offsets that don't negatively impact the taxpayer or ratepayer. I like it. 30% is a large number, but at the end of the day, to task township staff to haggle with insurance companies and do all the paperwork, the expense would definitely be a lot more than your $3,000 example. I'm in support.
Thank you for your comments. Others? As I was reading through this, Chief, I saw that in essence, because of our situation with staff and the volunteer fire department and not a lot of fire salaried staff, or none really, except maybe one, we've not been able to, we've been burdening the taxpayer, in my mind. This is not going to be punitive for the homeowner or the business owner that has the fire insurance. This is part of what fire insurance is meant to cover, is the cost of a fire. And for years, just being a rural volunteer fire service, we've not been able to take advantage of of the opportunity. And I think back to years ago when I first got on the fire department before amalgamation, and when Highway 31 was a provincial highway, any accidents that occurred on 31 or 43 that were non-residents that involved in the accident, there was an opportunity for us to recover money from the MTO for that accident, for the effort, but we never had the wherewithal or means to do that sort of thing. So it puts rural fire departments at a disadvantage because they don't have the staffing. But this will mitigate that somewhat by being, in essence, working on our behalf to recover those costs.
Absolutely, yep.
I appreciate the effort to go into finding these people and making a connection, because this is important to the fire service and to the taxpayer, because they're paying for a service and they're getting the service, but their insurance is paying for certain things, and the insurance needs to cover those costs.
Yeah.
Saying all of that, all those in favor? Oh, it's not even a recommendation. No,
yes,
please
right.
go ahead and investigate this further. Yeah, no, let's get this baby
So
rolling.
just skip the action request part then? We're good? Okay.
It's good. We'll draft that up later. No, I look forward to an action request. We're ready for it. Thank you. And Mr. Cheney, yes, this is going to be an interesting one. The speed limit reduction to 40K in designated areas.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser and council. I'll try to make it as interesting as I can. So the purpose of this key information report is to, I'm seeking, or staff is seeking council's recommendation and any opinions that they have on where we propose to put our 40K signs throughout the township. So we'll go through just a little bit of brief information on it, and then there are maps attached, and if there's any questions at the end, by all means, I'm more than willing to answer them. So on May 30th of 2017, the province of Ontario passed Bill 65, called the Safer School Zone Act, which permits municipalities to enact speed limit reductions. Currently, the default speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour unless posted otherwise. Section 128, subsection 2.1 of the Ontario Highway Traffic Act now allows municipalities to pass a bylaw to set a speed limit of less than 50 kilometers an hour for all roads within a designated area. Excuse me. At the February 29th, 2024 council meeting, council approved the implementation of the new speed limit change, reduction to 40 kilometers an hour in the 2024 budget. The practice of adopting bylaws and installing signage on each local roadway is costly and inefficient and doesn't address the problem on a township-wide basis. Bill 65 provides the township with an opportunity to reduce the speed limits on local residential and collector roadways within the designated area by passing a bylaw and installing perimeter signing for each designated area in the township. The program will require that a bylaw be passed for all designated reduced speed areas, and that signs will be installed at the entrances of each designated area. Below is an example of what the new signs will look like in the designated areas. Due to the scope of the work, the number of signs to be installed, and the consultation with neighboring municipalities, staff recommend implementation take place over the next few months with completion by year's end. As many of these signs will be erected on SD&G county roads, it will be necessary that the counties first pass a bylaw. All necessary information has been provided to the Transportation Department at the counties. Consequently, township staff will then prepare a bylaw for council's consideration. At this time, staff is seeking, as I said in the first there, just for any review or provide feedback on this key information report.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I think it's a good idea to reduce to 40 kilometers an hour, but at the same time, there are people concerned that all of a sudden you're going from 80 to 40, and it's just so that they are aware that we are planning to have intermediate speeds in between, so hopefully something like from 80 to 60 to 40, and it's not going to be 80 to suddenly 40.
Correct.
That would be just too much of a change.
Correct. So right now, the way it's designed, it's the county's road system pretty well that has the speed reductions right now. We currently do not in the township. So any county roads that are coming into town already go from 80 to 60 and then from 60 to 50. So what we will be doing is changing out the 50-kilometer-an-hour signs for 40-kilometer-an-hour signs. So it's going to go from 80 to 60 in spots, and not everywhere it goes from 80 to 60, but it'll go 80 to 60, 60 to 40.
I'm not 100% sure on this, but someone might correct me. County Road 13, that's the one that goes from Morewood to Chrysler, is that County Road 13?
Correct.
Coming in from the east heading west.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing a 60 zone there. I think it's 80 going right to 50. So
If I may, Mr. Cheney, and the Deputy Mayor's question, I do recall that this is a project underway to get to all the signs, and so there's many areas that do have that reduction, incremental reduction, but I have noticed too, and because conversations with staff at the county level, outside of the meetings, that's a work in progress as they're busy with the roads and everything else that the roads department deals with at the county level, that change and putting those interim or those sign that the slowdown, the breakdown signs, that's an ongoing process.
Yeah, so just keep in mind that the maps that you have in front of you are a proposal for the counties. There are some maps in there that are township-based. The complete road system is township-based, which that'll be up to council to decide. But once it's at the counties now, that'll be up to them to decide whether they want to change that speed limit. Chances are on Take 31 Highway, for example, I don't know this 100%, but if you look at Winchester Springs on County Road 31, it goes from 80 to 60 and back up to 80 again. Chances are we're not going to get that 60 changed to 40 just because it's a thoroughway. It's a Class 2 road, and more than likely County Council is not going to pass that. So what that means is that section of road would not have a 40 on it, but the other County Road 5, maybe. But on the other side of Winchester Springs Road, I'm pretty sure that council's not going to have an issue, but that'll be up to council to decide that. So that's one example. So that'll be 100% up to county council. They'll have to decide on the map and whether they want to be able, or allow us to change it down to 40.
One second. My take on it is that those roads, as you talk about the springs, that are 60, I don't imagine. I think this would be more the county roads that are 50 would, in all likelihood, in my desire, in all likelihood, would become 40, as well as the rest of that community. Councillor Lennox.
Yeah, I like this. Again, as mentioned previously, in months past, the 10-kilometer difference in speed is literally seconds. However, your braking power is increased tenfold. At 40, you can stop for that ball crossing the road. Now for a recommendation, which we can propose up to counties, hopefully, for consideration, is page 29, please. Dot 3. So the one for Morewood Road, I think we all received this email. I think it makes good sense to move or recommend that dot 3 is moved closer to the county line or the village line. It makes good sense. You got a lot of tractor flow, a lot of people walking there. The next dot up north by the fire hall, I couldn't tell because my image is really tiny. But as long as it's north of the community center, would be my recommendation. Honestly, I can't tell, sorry.
So it's, to you, Councillor Lennox, that is just between the community center and town. So it's not north of the community center. That's where the 50 is, or the 50 begins. So all of these dots on the map are where the 50 begins signs on the county roads.
All right, and within our recommendations up to counties, are we able to ask them to move everything back if they can put their 50 sign right at the county line, or a 60 in this case, or correction, the town line, village line?
Well, not to, I mean, not to be smart, but I do have a line or an in on the counties. I do know the manager of transportation down there. So I'm sure that any request that we have, we can definitely forward that on and then allow them to decide what they would like to do.
Well, by forward, you mean you're going to send it by snail mail because of all this ISP talk earlier and not of the Internet of Things?
It could very well be, yeah.
Yeah,
could very well.
I haven't heard good things about this gentleman, but we'll try to cooperate with the counties.
But yes, absolutely. Whatever council recommendations today will be forwarded on to the counties for them to peruse and take to their county council and seek approval on their end, and whatever they come back with, then we can go from there. Sure. Thank you. Yep.
I look forward to an opportunity for an on-site observation of these dots, and thinking of Councillor Lennox's concern about dot number 3 and pushing that towards the I always get it wrong, Mr. Pohl, but the settlement boundaries. Thank you. That's the word we're all looking for, the phrase we're all looking for. So pushing number 3 towards the settlement boundary, when I think of where the dot would be south of here on 38 or St. Lawrence Street, the settlement boundary is on the other side of the tracks. It's a long run from the settlement boundary to where you're coming into lots of housing and people walking. So there's those concerns. You do want to force people to grind their teeth for some would think as no apparent reason because you're so far outside of where the built-up area is. So I think those are concerns that if we had an on-site, we could maybe even try it, travel 40K from there to there and just get a feeling of how reasonable it is. But I too, like Councillor Lennox, I quite often travel 40K through town just to get a feel of how much longer it takes to get home, and truly the sense of safety that he expresses with your braking power, and you're able to, it's so much safer in my mind to be traveling 40 through town. You have that opportunity to hammer on the brakes and not worry about slipping and sliding, not worrying about running into someone. And if you do, and we've all had the opportunity, maybe not all taken it, but to review the injury, the impact to an adult at 40K versus 50K versus 70 versus 80. And it is a stark reminder that slower speeds save lives. And so I look forward to, I'm glad to see this project is moving forward, and I'm sure that our fellow councillors at the county level will be supportive of ensuring the safety of our communities. Is there anything else? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keeney. Mr. DeHaan.
Just to let council know, I too have heard that manager is a pain in the butt. So just very briefly, I know council's reviewed this report with respect to the Regional Waste Management Working Group. It's simply an update on the activities that are underway right now. I'm presenting on behalf of the Environment Department, and so please don't ask me any questions. But all that to say, no, I'm just kidding. I've been an active participant in this working group, and whenever I sit at the county level, so I'm pretty aware of what's going on. The big thing just to share with council in this report is that we're working on a communication strategy for the Blue Box transition. So the intention is to really make sure that we have some very standardized messaging that's going out across the region because it's all the same for all of us. It's everybody's in the same boat, and there's no sense in reinventing the wheel 6 times. So I know the communications coordinator at the county is actively working on that, and Nat's been working very closely with him, and we're expecting some detailed information relatively soon, and that'll be going out to the community shortly.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I took the opportunity to review that because it's near and dear to my heart and my feelings on the regional, the importance of the working group, and it's surprising to read that, and then I've had conversations with people that live in North Grenville, and just random conversation, and their concern about bag tags and how that system works there, which is always nice to understand someone else's challenges. What is related to me, the bag tag is per bag, not expensive, but it really is, it's not a deterrent. for the number of bags that go out at the curb for those that are willing to follow the rules. Those that are unwilling, deposit their extra bags. This is all anecdotal. Deposit their extra bags at someone else's house, and then that person is saddled with the bags that aren't tagged. But I'm surprised to see there's such a variance in bag tags, and to me, it is inexpensive, but I don't think it really does the job of for $3. Do you be mindful of what you're throwing out for $3 or $1.50, or you just throw it for $1.50 and you put a tag on it? But I look forward to the communication that's going to go out about the recycling program, and because I'm still confused, and I'm sure there's lots of confusion out there for those that aren't even getting the information yet, and it's going to be quite a project. But there was a lot of good information in that report, as I see it scrolled, and about the mattresses. And if I may ask, the city is Cornwall we're talking about?
Yes,
Refers
yeah,
to
this,
city?
the City of Cornwall is an active participant in this working
So
group.
the city would have had a stack 1.5 times the height of the CN Tower.
Yeah, mattresses deposited. Scary. I assume they're laying flat, not end on end, but yeah.
It's quite an eye opener when you see a report like that, and about the challenges that we all face with our space, our land, and the future of our waste facilities. It's
And very interesting, if I may, to sit on kind of the North Dundas side of the table around that group with a active landfill and a landfill that has received approval for an expansion, because we're in a very different boat than pretty much everybody else around that table. So it's interesting perspective that actually North Dundas can bring to the table. So we look forward to Danielle returning and actually providing some. I'm there as a good-looking face. She provides some actual meat to the discussion for sure.
well, I'm glad to see that you had the opportunity to see the steps we've taken in North Dundas with the expansion and the approval, and maybe early days with my consternation with the working group and some of the challenges, how everyone was throwing their hands up in the air saying they had nowhere to go, and the former deputy mayor and myself were saying we're working towards a solution, and that was always about that's where the hesitation would come from. We wanted to make sure that our efforts were for positive and not for naught. Thank you very much on that. And the next.
Thank you. Again, I won't spend too much time. This is related to the strategic plan update. I know council, we've seen this a couple times in more recent meetings, just to kind of finalize, put the feather in the cap of that strategic plan update. And I'm sure council noticed on our reports, and I thank our clerk for working hard on that, is adding in that relevance to strategic plan in our action requests, so that we can tie some of the work we're doing directly back, and that'll help track it going forward in terms of how we're working towards achieving our goals. A couple things just I wanted to highlight for council in terms of things we're working on going forward, particularly as it impacts budget coming up in 2025. Under infrastructure updates, which is priority 2, we are working, Jamie's department's working very hard with the county on completing a road needs study. So the inspections have been done for all the hard surfaces. We're still working, and I know this because, again, I know that guy at the county, and kind of have a better understanding of the status of it. But gravel road inspections are going to be underway shortly, and we hope to work with Jamie to provide an updated road needs study, which then you can take that information and plug it into a budget and provide the direction that, I would suggest the municipality needs on how to move forward with the needs of the municipality as it comes to roadways. So that's something that's going to be very busy over the next little bit. One thing I wanted to bring to council's attention and maybe get some input on is on priority number 3, which the one goal was be active participants in working groups with departmental counterparts in other municipalities. Of course, we talked about Calvin and what he's doing at AMO, and I would suggest that that's something that we can put a feather in our cap on with this goal. But one of the questions I had is, how does council, is there other things council wants to do to achieve that goal? an option or opportunity that I've kind of thrown in this report is, do we want to consider some kind of joint council meeting with our neighbors to the south or even our neighbors to the east? And somehow, I know that the Glengarrys do that on occasion. I honestly couldn't tell you, I've never witnessed it myself. I'm not quite sure the mechanics of that, but once a year they do that. And I think that perhaps that's something we may want to explore as a council. So when I'm done talking, I look forward to council's input on that, if there's something they kind of have a vision for there. The other thing I wanted to point out, and priority for the post-council meeting highlights on the township website and through notifications, we had talked in the communications plan that Natalie had presented at our last meeting. She's actually moving forward with that template, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but we are ready to actually implement that tomorrow. I know the report suggests it would be September, but we'll start after this meeting, and then we can actually refine it as we continue on. So great on Natalie for being able to get that advanced. And the last thing was with respect to the, on that priority as well, the pre-budget survey. We're busy working on that, and we appreciate council's input. I think we've pretty much got every council member's input, and we're hoping to continue to refine that and put out something in the near future that to help inform again what the priorities of the community, help to get some information in so we can better understand the priorities of the community for our budget in 2025, which is, it's crazy to think that that's coming, but that's coming right down the road very shortly. So that's it. I'm open to any input, feedback, questions, and we'll take it from there.
Questions, comments? Councillor Lennox?
Yeah, thank you. And again, I'll take this opportunity. Thank you for all your hard work in last year. For priority 4, I'll just jump into it. Would it be possible to update the ownership or the other social accounts such as Twitter or X and Instagram? Last post I saw on Twitter, I think it was May 2021, and it was talking ironically about waste.
So that's an excellent comment, because one of the things that we're looking to do as part of our comm strategy, which is, like you see, create a communication strategy, increase our presence on other platforms. So that's something we're actively working on right now, and we're going to come back to council with some suggestions on where we should be active versus not active. So I guess that type of analysis and recommendation to council is coming.
No, perfect. And this, Mr. Dahan excellently led into priority number 3, be active participants in working groups and etc. external to North Dundas, because you probably want to talk to us more at some other level.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, all seriousness, it doesn't hurt to reach out, and especially with people who are not SDNG, our neighbors to the west. You mentioned them, Glengarrys do it, or not the Glengarry, or you said the
Yeah, the North and South Glengarry, they have they have an official joint council meeting once per year.
Yeah, it would be worth it, our partners to the south, but I'm interested in what's going well to the west, because they're growing and they have some pretty cool programs, and I'm sure they face the same challenges we're facing today, maybe 5-10 years ago with growth.
Sure.
So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments for Mr. Dahan on this topic? No, I look forward to it, as Councillor Lennox does. I'm energized with that thought of a joint council working group with our neighbors to the west, because of the growth, as Councillor Lennox expressed, and I guess whenever I get back to a county council meeting, or whenever the deputy mayor and I get back to one, we could quiz the Glengarrys on what sort of things they talk about, and get an idea, and maybe there's some minutes available or from the past meetings to see what sort of things. But it's we do get a small opportunity every time we're at a county council meeting, or we run into each other. Like last night, I was with the warden. To talk about some of our shared challenges, but I think it'd be beneficial to us to have all of the council members sit and listen to the shared challenges, and learn from others. So it's those two things, and the road needs study. I think back to it was just like yesterday. We were talking budget and how much money, and but that roads need study in the gravel end, as was expressed after a meeting a few months ago, that it's good to hear that people want better gravel roads, as we all do. And it's going to be beneficial to us all to understand the challenges going forward. And I think this road needs study with the gravel. We'll be able to put a dollar figure to the process. So I'm looking forward to that, because for myself, maybe no one else, it's kind of tough to argue without all the information.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to having the information, so we're all on the same page and we're all moving forward in the same direction. All of us, I mean, not just council, I mean the community. Yeah. So that's good. That's exciting stuff going to be coming up. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? No. Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Before I read the consent agenda, I meant to do it earlier. Is there anything that council members wanted pulled out? Is there anything that staff members want pulled out of the consent agenda before I read it? Moved by Councillor Lennox, second by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that all items under the consent agenda be approved or received as recommended. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Madam Clerk, how do we take a 5-minute break here before? Okay, so I'm going to call a 5-minute break, and then after the 5-minute break, we're going to return and move into closed session. And for those in the audience and staff that aren't involved in the closed session, there'll be nothing else after except for the closing of the meeting. Won't be discussing any more topics. Okay, so a 5-minute break. Thank you for that. Well, before we take the 5-minute break, I'm going to do the boards and committees. Do that stuff because, oh, no, sit down, gentlemen. I made a mistake. We were going to have one thing to do, or a couple things to do first. Boards and committees. We can't forget about Dairy Fest. Boards and committees, county council. I can't remember the last time I was at a county. We haven't had one since Parade of Lights. I have no update. The Garden Party Market, so far it's been a success. I think the weather has been fairly cooperative. Most recently, the Garden Party Market was at Dairy Fest. There were lots of people milling about. The new location of the Garden Party Market at the 100 Club Park in Winchester seems quite suitable. Lots of people are enjoying and appreciating where it's located. Art in the waterfront, Councillor Hannibal.
No, there's nothing. They don't meet during the summer.
Green Action Gang, Councillor Lennox.
Nothing significant to report, but I do see a stranger in the building. You should look into Chesterville Green Action Gang. It's a great group, and I think you live relatively close. Thank you.
Dairy Fest, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, we had a meeting 1 week before the event, and Aaron arrived a little bit late and, I don't know, forgot his laptop, but in his head, he figured that they raised in sponsorships between $15,000 and $16,000 this year in sponsorships, which is really, really good. The weather was great. They had enough volunteers. There was a good turnout, so it was a successful event. And I won't know the details of what it cost or how much profit was made until our next meeting.
To the Dairy Fest, I think we've all had an opportunity to attend at some point over the weekend. My take on it was a well-attended event. The slab was busy. The parking lot was busy, especially with the car show and the vendors. The ball diamonds were busy. It was a good weekend. The tractor parade was well attended. I'm going to not pat myself on the back, let people know that I was on the John Deere model number 1830. I want to thank Farmer John and Grandma Linda for making sure that my whining was heard, because I wanted to drive, and to Brett Bartholomew for allowing his grandfather John to let me drive his tractor. So it was it was grinning ear to ear with that, so I really like that. And I look forward to next year being on a tractor again. Comments about Dairy Fest from anyone?
Yeah, I echo what has already been said by both the mayor and deputy mayor. It was a great event. I attended earlier on Saturday for the firefighters' breakfast. It was a good breakfast, no complaints, and then drove by a few times and saw how busy it was. And yeah, well done to you and your committee.
And I just want to make sure that we get a chance to thank Marcia and her volunteers, Marcia and I believe it's Ann? Amy. Marcia and Amy and their volunteers for taking on that project. It was those two and their small group of volunteers powered through that weekend, and they do a fantastic job, and kudos to them for bringing everyone together as they did. Downtown Winchester.
We had a meeting last night. We're crossing the T's, dotting the I's. We went over what is required and what's been booked and what's left to be booked. But we are short of volunteers to man the gates. So if you know of anybody that's got a couple hours, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Lennox, Morwood RA.
Morwood RA is on summer break right now. However, they have been engaged by the township and other community groups to assist here, barbecue there. So they're still active in summer. However, we're taking breaks from meetings.
Thank you. Motions, notices, motions, seeing none. Council comments and concerns? Deputy Mayor?
I just had one comment or one question. In the spring and early summer, we all got a lot of complaints about the gravel roads, and I wanted to know from Mr. Cheney over there what he accomplished throughout the summer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, we concluded or wrapped up our gravel maintenance program for this year for so far. We have a little bit of gravel. We have a couple of roads that we're gonna pulverize coming up in hopefully in the month of September, so there'll be a little more gravel maintenance there. But under our budget for 2024, the gravel maintenance part, we wrapped that up. And actually, we were quite lucky this year. We had a provisional in our tender for Thompson Road, and the provisional said that we were just going to put 1 4-inch strip down the middle of the road. And myself and staff decided that when we were there and we were going to do that, why don't we do it all? So we did, in fact, go over and above what we had planned on for 2024, and we did put a proper amount of maintenance gravel on the whole end of, or the whole length of Thompson Road.
So, okay, now we all know that we always get flack or negative comments. Did anyone at the end of everything say, "Good job done," or anything like that? I'm just asking. Is it once in a while it's nice to get, something like that.
It is very welcomed. Positive comments are always very welcomed as opposed to negative comments. But to answer your question, Deputy Mayor, no, we did not receive any feedback from any residents on that road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in this business, no news is good news, though.
Yep.
Any other council comments, concerns? Miscellaneous, none. Now, we can take the 5-minute break. Thank you. So welcome back, everyone, and we're going to move into closed session, moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Lennox, that council proceed to closed session at 2:23 p.m. pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001, subsection E, litigation or potential litigation. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Okay, welcome back. Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council return to open session at 2:40 PM. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that staff proceed as directed during closed session. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. We're returning, our in-camera discussion pertained to, as stated before, pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act, 2001, subsection E, litigation or potential litigation, contractor default, where discussion was based, was to discuss next step to be taken concerning the contractor default. Mr. Pohl, would you like to speak about the OPA before we move to ratification?
So as council may be aware, yesterday the county council had a public meeting on the new two of OPAs that are going forward. It was OPA number 24 and 25. 24 reestablishes the date for us for severances. So it keeps the same date that we have in the current official plan, so that doesn't change. Some of the other municipalities are going to January 1st. There was one comment from one member of the public that attended against that. They didn't want to see the date change because that would mean severances next to her, and she didn't want severances next to her, so that was a bit of a personal issue on that side of it, and didn't want to see strip development in their area. So that was one of the comments received on that part of it. Nobody commented with respect to North Dundas's position. The second part of it was dealing with the settlement boundaries. We're doing a few adjustments. One of them is to take Wellings into the settlement boundary of Winchester so they can do phase 4 and 5. They're right now in an agricultural district, so they cannot expand into 4 and 5. So the province has said, off the record, essentially they wouldn't appeal something like that, where we're trying to change and bring housing into the settlement area in this particular case. It's a bit of a trade at based on the current official plan and the current provincial policies. We are only allowed to trade off. So if we have to take X amount of square foot from here and move it over there in the settlement areas. So that's what we've been doing and playing with some of those areas to bring Wellings in, as well as the back of some properties. We have a lot of properties that are split by the current hamlets and boundaries, where part of the property's in the settlement area and part of it's outside the settlement area. So we're trying to square some of those up through these amendments. The province didn't agree with some of those changes that we tried to do, so they were pulled from yesterday's agenda. Ormond, Morwood, and South Mountain were pulled just because of some of the issues that the province was bringing forward. They want to meet with us further, so we're going to do that as a phase 2. So phase 1 is the main areas that we really wanted to get into the official plan. So phase 2 will be some of these others. So I'll be bringing a report back to council with some of those changes that we're trying to do to get some of the areas where we have proposed subdivisions. There are people buying the land. They want to buy the land for a subdivision, but they're right now on the border, or half the property is in, half the property is out. It makes more sense to put the whole property in those cases. And we have some in Ormond like that, where part of the property is in, part of the property is out. It's not financially viable to develop only half the property. They need to do the whole thing. It just doesn't make sense to do half a property. So those are the ones we want to make sure the province clearly understands what we're trying to do and don't object to us. Because we did get an objection on our open space, that's OPA number 23. The province filed an objection on our open space, and that was partly the Oshman Forest is included in that one, where we were trying to protect the Oshman Forest. Some of it's inside the hamlet of Ormond, some was outside. They're saying the part outside you can't do as open space. We're not quite sure why. It's a maple syrup stand that, is the whole property. It's not half a property. So we'll be going into discussions with them on that and how do we proceed from here. But that one's essentially been appealed to the courts. We're going through the courts on that. So that's just the update on what the last 3 amendments that are going through. We're trying to work with the province on these and get to resolutions rather than fighting in court.
Thank you for that update. It's, I don't know how you even comment in a positive fashion about anything that province has to do when you think of the fiasco of the green belt, and now here we are quibbling over backyards that are in and out, and it's a stunner. I think some members of this current council didn't have that opportunity to go with that give and take and switching square footage back and forth, and some of the consternation it caused in a community, whenever all of a sudden this land is no longer in the settlement area and wasn't, now it is, and as opposed to just recognizing that we need to expand our settlement areas as opposed to keeping the same square footage within, and just juggle things and hope everyone's happy. I just don't understand how the system works.
Yeah, one of the comments I had yesterday was, 7 years ago when this official plan was first adopted, we didn't have wellings, and no anticipation of that. And we've had to accommodate and deal with that. We had to move land over for their phase 1, 2, and 3. And now we're into phase 4 and 5, trying to move land over again. It's some of these developments you don't anticipate. It's just comes, you want to take advantage of it, make it happen. So in 7 years, yeah, things can change. You need that flexibility to move stuff around where development is happening. So that's all we were seeking. Seem to be getting a wall sometimes, and it's frustrating.
No doubt it is. Mhm. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Unless, I'm sorry, is there any questions, comments? No? Okay, good. Is there anything else from members of staff? Moved by Councillor Lennox, second by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that bylaw number 2024-52 to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 15th day of August 2024. All those in favor? Seeing all those opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Lennox, that council adjourn at 2:46 p.m. to the call of the chair. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for participating and being with us today. Until next time, take care.